Yo, what's good, guys? It's Austin here, or Luna. So today's story time is about high school, specifically about a pretty big mistake I made on my last year of high school, and it involves that teacher I was just talking about in my story time yesterday, Mrs. Wilson. That's not actually her name, but that's the name I gave her for the sake of keeping her identity secret. But if you haven't seen that story time, I'll link it in the description. I suggest you watch that one first so you can get a better understanding of the teacher that I'm talking about. But yeah, anyway, today's story time, pretty crazy one. Hope you enjoy it. If you do, please leave a like on the video. But before we jump into today's story time, I feel like I had to put this here. This video is for entertainment purposes only. Don't go out and try something or do something just because you see it in one of my videos or anybody's videos for that matter. And yeah, enjoy the story time. So today's story time all takes place in 2015, a very long time ago. It was the month of October. I woke up extremely early, way earlier than I usually do for school. I woke up at like 4 in the morning. I fell asleep at like midnight and I woke up 4 hours later, just completely energized for some reason. I could not go back to bed. Now, I had a lot of time before school started, so I decided to text one of my friends who was a couple years older than me and went to the same school as me, just to see if he was awake, because he usually was at that time. And sure enough, he hit me back. He's like, "What's up, man? Why are you awake?" I was like, "I don't know, man. I woke up really early for some reason. You want to hang out or something?" He was like, "Yeah, for sure. What do you want to do?" I was like, "You want to get breakfast or some shit?" He's like, "Yeah." So he pulls up to my house. I jump out of my window. I sneak out real quick because my mom definitely wouldn't want me leaving the house at 4 in the morning. I get in my friend's car. We go through a drive-through, and then we go back to his house for like an hour. And while we're at his house, I'm sitting in his room, and he's going through his desk in his room right next to me. And he's looking for something. And I didn't know what he was looking for, but he was really looking for a long time. So after like 5 minutes of him looking, I was like, "Yo, man, what are you looking for? Like, what's in your desk?" He's like, "I lost some Molly in here." I was like, "You lost Molly in your desk? How?" He's like, "I don't know, man. I thought I put it in here, but I guess I didn't because it's not in this drawer at all. So I got to keep looking." And he starts looking through a bunch of other shit in his room. He's just ripping his whole room apart looking for this Molly. And about 5 minutes later, he finds it in a drawer with his underwear. And after he finds it, he takes some of it, just immediately takes one. And I was like, "Damn, you're really bored today, aren't you?" He's like, "Yeah, man, you want some?" Now, me being a stupid teenager and not quite thinking it through, I agreed to do it with him. Now, I have no idea what had gotten into me that day. I just did not give a fuck for some reason. I didn't care about the fact that I had school in a few hours. I was just in such a bad mood, and I didn't want to go to school so much, to the point where I was willing to take Molly with my friend before it. So, yeah, definitely not a good idea, but I took it with him. And literally within 30 minutes of taking it, I started to feel it. Not super hard, but I could start to feel it gradually coming on. And by like the first hour, I was really feeling it. And by hour 2, I was peeking off it. The walls in my friend's basement looked like they were fucking vibrating. My phone looked super different, like the colors were popping out a lot more. Everything in life was a lot more interesting looking. And I was definitely feeling the effects of overconfidence, happiness. I felt like I could climb Mount Everest a million times. Obviously, I couldn't. If I tried to climb Mount Everest, I would freeze to death, and you would never hear from me again. But yeah, you know what I mean. I was definitely feeling overly confident. I didn't give a shit about anyone's opinion. So, fast forward, I had to go to school while I was peeking on Molly. I texted my mom, and I told her not to worry, that I was with my friend, and he was taking me to school early, so she didn't worry about me not being home when she woke up. And then after that, me and my friend got on my friend's bus, and we rode to school together. Because obviously my friend didn't want to drive while he was on Molly. He was trying to be smart. So we got on his bus together and rode there together. I don't know why, but for some reason his bus driver didn't care that I just got on the bus with him. Like, usually bus drivers take that shit super seriously. Like, there was a few different times before this where I tried to sneak onto my friends' buses and like go home with them or like get a ride with them, and the bus driver would just kick me off immediately. But for some reason my friend's bus driver just did not give a shit. So yeah, me and my friend rode the bus to school together while peeking on Molly, got to school, walked in, and it was the most overwhelming situation on planet Earth. Like, peeking on that, seeing hundreds of people in the hallway. I had a bunch of friends walking up to me in the hallway being like, "Yo, what's up, Austin? How you doing?" And immediately they knew that I was on something because I was clenching my jaw and sweating a shit ton. I was basically sweating through my white shirt. And one of our friends notices this and he goes, "Why are you both so sweaty? I know you didn't go for a jog or something. Like, what'd you do?" And I just look at my friend and he looks at me and we both look at that friend that asked that. And at the same exact time, me and my friend both said, "We're on Molly." And everyone cracks up laughing. All of our friends start dying. And one of my other friends goes, "Why take it before school? Like, this is the most boring place on earth." I was like, "Yeah, exactly. It's fucking boring." And my friend goes, "I know, but like, you're about to have to go to class and sit in silence while peeking on that shit." And I didn't even think about that. I forgot that I had to go to class and sit in pure silence while being on this fucking Molly. So yeah, fast forward 10 minutes later, I get to class, and guess what? My first period class with Miss Wilson's. And the minute I walked in the room, the whole vibe just changed. Everything was silent. It was way too quiet. I could feel my heart beating like 1,000,000 miles a minute. And I'm just like, oh shit. So I sit down in my chair, basically on the verge of a panic attack because I'm so amped up, but I can't do anything with the energy. So I just sit down at my desk and I'm just like kicking my feet back and forth and like trying to move as much as I can, but not move too much so I don't draw attention to myself. But all I wanted to do was just run out in the hallway and go talk to my friends or like go leave school and do something else. So I'm sitting there at my table and Miss Wilson walks in the room and she looks at me and she immediately knows something is up. Like she could tell by the look on my face and how much I was sweating. She could tell that something was going on. And she comes up to me and she goes, "Hey Austin, how you doing today?" I was like, "I'm okay." And I just looked the other way. Like I was not making eye contact because it was way too awkward. And that alone gave away that something was up. And she goes, "You seem a little jittery. Are you okay?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm fine." And she grabs my chin with her hand and turns my head to look at her in the eyes and proceeds to stare deep into my soul. It's like she was exposing all of my secrets with this look she was giving me. It was so terrifying. Like she knew something was up. And she goes, "Out in the hallway now." I was like, "What?" She goes, "I need to talk to you out in the hallway right now." And she brings me out in the hallway, shuts the door, and she goes, "Austin, I'm going to ask you a question. I'm going to ask it one time. Don't bullshit me. Are you on something?" She just knew. I was like, "Yeah." She goes, "What is it?" I was like, "Molly." She goes, "What's that?" And I had to explain to her what it was. And she's like, "Okay, do I need to call someone? Like, do I need to call your parents? Do I need to call the nurse? Like, are you going to be okay?" And she was just worrying a lot. And I was just like, "No, you don't need to call anybody. Don't need to call the nurse. Don't need to call my parents. I just need to let this run its course and I'll be good." And I'm freaking out on the inside because I'm really worried she's about to call up my mom or call up the principal or something. Because at this point, me and Miss Wilson weren't that cool yet. Like, we were cool, don't get me wrong. Like, she was definitely my favorite teacher at this point, but it had only been like a couple months into the school year, so she didn't know me that well. So after I tell her to just like, not call anyone and that this thing will run its course, she tells me that she doesn't believe me and she feels like she needs to call the nurse because I seemed really out of it. And I was like, "No, you don't need to call the nurse. Like, the nurse is going to tell the principal. Like, I'll be screwed." And she's like, "No, she won't. Like, trust me." And I was like, fuck. So my teacher makes me go up to the nurse, tells her about what's going on. She gives me some water, sits me down, talks to me for a little bit. And about 30 minutes later, the nurse agrees to write me a sick pass to let me out of school for the day. But under one condition. The nurse and Miss Wilson both told me I could leave school, I could go home early and rest and like let this wear off, and they won't tell the administrators or the principal, only if I never do that again. So I was like, "Yeah, of course, deal." And she's like, "Okay, good." And she writes me the sick pass, and I go home. My mom had to come and pick me up, and that was a very awkward ride home. But at the same time, it was a very believable story that I was sick because I was sweating so much that my mom thought I had a fever. And I probably did have a fever, but not one from being sick. So yeah, I went home, I immediately went in my room and just played COD all day and blasted music and tried to not think about the fucked up day I just had. My friend, on the other hand, just stuck the whole day out at school. He was just there the whole day, and he was, like, fine with it. But, yeah, in the end, I was okay. I never did that shit again, because that was ridiculous. And moral of this story is, don't fucking do that. It was a terrible idea. Real shit. Horrible idea. Don't do that, ever. Just don't. But, yeah, guys, that's the story time of how I probably almost got expelled because I did Molly before school and got caught. And, yeah, definitely could have went a lot worse, so I guess it's good that it ended the way it did, but I definitely learned my lesson about that one. Anyway, guys, hope you enjoyed this story time. If you did, please leave a like on the video. I would really appreciate it. Feel free to leave your story times in the comments down below, and subscribe if you're new. I'll see y'all later. Peace.
In the night you be wanting to fight. When I pull up you see it's like, oh shit. Cut all these ties cause they plan my demise. They all snakes and I think it's been showing. I got some issues, they haunting me daily. I'm losing my